There was a time when every sunrise began with an engine's roar. The farmer climbed aboard, soil clinging to his boots, and the land waited for his hands to guide it. But today, the land moves on its own. Machines till, plant, and harvest without a single voice shouting across the field. The engines are still running, but the seats are empty. From California to Kyoto, a new generation of tractors has emerged, powered by electricity, by hydrogen, by memory. They don't just pull, they think. Sensors watch the soil breathe. Algorithms decide when to sow, when to rest, and when to heal. And somewhere in the silence, the future begins to hum. These aren't the tractors your grandfather knew. They are the descendants of every machine that ever dared to outgrow its own purpose. The builders of a new rhythm where data replaces diesel and awareness replaces control. This is the story of machines that no longer work for us, but with us. Welcome to Tractor World, and these are the top 10 future tractors of 2030, the rise of autonomous farming. Ranked 10th, New Holland T4 Electric Power, 2023. For over a century, the sound of farming was diesel. Engines roared, pistons fired, and black exhaust rose with every sunrise. But in 2023, that sound changed. The New Holland T4 Electric Power didn't arrive with thunder. It came in silence. This was the first fully electric utility tractor ever built for commercial farming. Compact, quiet, and blue like the dawn it represented, the T4 Electric Power was designed not for spectacle, but for revolution. Under its hood lies a 55-kilowatt electric motor that delivers instant torque. No gears, no lag, no fumes. It can operate for a full day on a single charge. And when the work is done, it plugs in like a phone. But its true innovation isn't just electric power, it's intelligent control. The T4 can be driven manually, remotely, or even autonomously. Sensors and cameras map its surroundings, allowing farmers to monitor it through a mobile app. It can even recognize obstacles, plan paths, and coordinate with other machines. Where old tractors responded to human input, this one listens, learns, and anticipates. And then there's the silence. Eerie at first, almost unsettling. In place of the diesel growl is only the faint hum of electric current. Birds return to the fields. Workers speak without shouting. It's the sound of change. Still, some farmers hesitate. Can silence really mean strength? Can something so calm replace the noise that once defined progress? The T4 doesn't argue. It simply works, proving that future power doesn't have to roar to be real. A century ago, steam gave way to diesel. Now diesel gives way to electrons, and the earth doesn't protest. So what do you think? Is the future of farming quiet? Or have we just forgotten what power sounds like? Ranked 9th, Monarch MKV Smart Tractor, 2023. It doesn't rumble, it doesn't shout, but when you walk in front of it, it stops. Because this machine doesn't just move, it sees. Launched in 2023 by a California startup, the Monarch MKV became the world's first commercially available smart electric tractor. A machine born from data, not diesel. From a distance, it looks almost ordinary. 4 wheels, compact frame, clean lines. But step closer, and you realize you're looking into the eyes of an intelligent system. 12 onboard cameras, ultrasonic sensors, and AI processors that make it one of the most aware machines ever built for the field. Powered by a 40-horsepower electric motor and a 75-horsepower peak boost, the MKV isn't chasing brute force. It's chasing precision. It maps its surroundings in real time, recognizes people and animals, and can plow, mow, or spray without a human hand. One operator can control up to 8 Monarchs remotely from a tablet or phone, commanding a digital fleet that never tires, never misses a line, never loses focus. It's not just automation, it's evolution. Each Monarch gathers thousands of data points per second: soil condition, crop growth, energy use, temperature, and terrain. This information doesn't die in memory chips. It lives in the cloud, shared across the fleet, teaching every new machine how to be better than the last. For small farms, it's a second pair of hands. For large ones, it's a revolution. a fleet that learns faster than humans can train it. But with that intelligence comes an uncomfortable question. What happens when the machine no longer needs the farmer, only the field? Still, the MKV was never built to replace people. It was built to amplify them, to take the exhaustion out of necessity, to let farmers focus on decisions instead of repetition. And perhaps that's where progress truly begins. The monarch doesn't roar, doesn't rest, doesn't forget. It just remembers every inch of land it has ever touched, and in that memory lies the blueprint of tomorrow's agriculture. So what do you think? When machines can see, learn, and remember the land better than we do, who really owns the future of farming? Ranked 8th, Kubota X Tractor 2020. In 2020, while the world looked backward to survive, Japan quietly looked forward to a future where farming no longer required a driver. That vision took shape in orange alloy and quiet motion. The Kubota X Tractor. No cab, no steering wheel, no human at all. This wasn't just a prototype, it was a prophecy. Unveiled on Kubota's 131st anniversary, the X Tractor was the first machine designed to think, act, and adapt entirely on its own. Powered by a fully electric drivetrain with solar charging panels integrated into its body, it could recharge itself under the same sun that nourished the crops. Each track was independently controlled by AI, allowing it to traverse uneven ground and steep slopes with the precision of a living organism. But its most impressive feature wasn't strength or speed, it was awareness. Through an onboard neural system, the X Tractor analyzed weather, soil composition, and crop growth in real time. It didn't just react to nature, it communicated with it. Using stored satellite data, it adjusted seeding depth, fertilizer levels, and harvest timing based on predicted rainfall and sunlight. The farmer's role? To supervise from a screen, a conductor guiding an orchestra of algorithms. In many ways, it wasn't even a tractor anymore. It was a field intelligence unit, the bridge between robotics and agriculture. Where the traditional tractor symbolized muscle, the X Tractor symbolized memory. It embodied Japan's philosophy of monozukuri, craftsmanship guided by harmony between man, machine, and earth. And yet beneath its quiet perfection lies an unease. When machines work the land better than humans ever could, what becomes of tradition, of touch, of the scent of soil that once told a farmer when to sow and when to rest? Kubota didn't build the X Tractor to erase humanity. It built it to preserve it in a new form, to ensure that farming endures in a world where people might not always be there to do it. The future it promised wasn't loud. It didn't shout revolution. It simply looked across the field and kept going, whether anyone was watching or not. So, what do you think? Is this the beginning of liberation or the quiet surrender of an ancient art? Ranked 7th, Fendt X Concept, 2024 prototype. Before the Fendt X even touches the soil, it already knows it. The angle of the slope, the moisture of the ground, the density of the roots beneath. Because this isn't a machine built to obey, it's one built to understand. Unveiled as a prototype in 2024, the Fendt X Concept marked a turning point in European agriculture. It wasn't just another big machine with an engine. It was a new kind of organism, half tractor, half artificial intelligence. Inside its compact hybrid frame sits a next-generation electric diesel powertrain, managed by an adaptive AI system that adjusts torque, tire pressure, and traction before a wheel even turns. Unlike traditional tractors that wait for human input, the Fendt X operates through predictive modeling. Its onboard sensors collect data from previous passes, satellite imagery, and weather forecasts to anticipate soil resistance or slippage. The result is near zero waste, less compaction, less fuel, and more yield per acre. It doesn't just respond to the land, it learns its behavior, like a driver who's memorized every turn of an old road. And then there's its modular design. The Fendt X can detach, reconfigure, or even operate in sync with drone assistance and robotic implements. One system handles planting, another handles spraying, all coordinated by a central AI brain. It's not a single tractor anymore. but the nucleus of an ecosystem. Fendt engineers called it intelligent power. Farmers who tested it called it unnerving. Because when a machine begins to anticipate rather than obey, the balance shifts. The Fendt X doesn't wait for a command, it suggests one. Still, that's what makes it beautiful. For centuries, the tractor represented control. Man over nature, force over soil. The Fendt X turns that philosophy inside out. It shows that strength isn't just about horsepower. It's about knowing when not to use it. So what do you think? When a machine can predict the field before it enters it, does that make it a tool or a partner? Ranked 6th, Claas Axion 960, TerraTrack. Power used to mean pressure. Tons of steel pressing into the soil, crushing the earth beneath every pass. Then came a machine that asked a quieter question. What if power could float instead of force? That was the idea behind the Claas Axion 960 TerraTrack, a tractor that didn't try to conquer the land. It learned to move with it. Launched in 2019 and refined through 2024, this hybrid engine giant brought together two philosophies that rarely meet: brute horsepower and gentle contact. At its heart, a 445 horsepower Mercedes-Benz six-cylinder engine delivers relentless torque, while its real genius lies beneath: the TerraTrack suspension system. Instead of wheels, the Axion glides on adaptive rubber tracks that expand, contract, and flex independently, reducing soil compaction by up to 50%. Sensors measure ground pressure hundreds of times per second, redistributing weight like a living spine, adjusting its balance. The result isn't just stability, it's harmony. Even when towing multi-ton implements, the tractor leaves behind only faint traces. No deep ruts, no scars of overwork. In an age where efficiency often means exploitation, the Claas Axion redefined what strength could look like. Inside, the cab feels like an aircraft cockpit. Panoramic glass, touch screens, suspended seating that floats on hydraulics. Yet despite its digital comforts, the Axion isn't about luxury. It's about respect for the soil that feeds us and the technology that has finally learned how not to break it. When Claas engineers first unveiled the TerraTrack system, they called it controlled power. But farmers had a simpler name: the gentle giant. Because while other machines left noise and scars, this one left silence, in order. Power, it seems, doesn't always roar. Sometimes it hums softly across a field, reminding us that progress isn't about how much force we apply, but how carefully we can choose not to. So what do you think? Is this evolution in power, or the first act of restraint in a century defined by excess? Ranked 5th, Deere SESAM 2 electric tractor, 2022. For more than a century, the rhythm of farming was set by combustion, explosions contained in metal, pistons hammering through dawn and dusk. But in 2022, John Deere unveiled something that broke that rhythm entirely. The SESAM2, an electric tractor so quiet you could hear the wind through the wheat. SESAM, short for Sustainable Energy Supply for Agricultural Machinery, wasn't built to impress with volume. It was built to challenge a century of assumptions. Beneath its emerald frame lay a pair of 1,000 Newton meters electric motors and a battery system powerful enough to outlast an entire workday. There was no fuel, no exhaust, no delay. Press a button and the machine surged forward instantly. Torque delivered at the speed of thought. But silence can be unsettling. For the first time, farmers stood next to a machine that didn't growl before it moved. It simply went. And that absence of noise, that absence of smoke, forced a new realization. That power had never needed to sound violent. The CSAM2 could run on stored solar energy, or even hydrogen, making it one of the first truly carbon-neutral high-horsepower tractors ever conceived. Its design was minimalist, stripped of the clutter that defined old machines. Every movement was smooth, every system digital, every function integrated into one seamless network. It wasn't a tractor anymore. It was the idea of one, reborn for a cleaner century. Still, the quiet made people uneasy. Could something that calm really pull the weight of the past? Could it carry the same emotional gravity as those roaring engines that built the modern world? John Deere's engineers believe so. They argued that strength isn't in the noise we make, it's in the precision we keep. Today, the SESAM2 remains the silent prototype that redefined what a powertrain means. It didn't just trade diesel for electricity, it traded aggression for awareness. And in doing so, it asked a haunting question. If the machines of tomorrow make no sound, how will we know when the world changes? Ranked fourth, CNHT7 methane power. For over a century, tractors consumed the Earth's fuel. But in 2025, one machine began feeding on what the Earth had already given back. Meet the CNHT7 methane power, the tractor that runs on what farms used to throw away. Developed by New Holland, part of CNH Industrial, the T7 is more than a technological achievement. It's a closed loop of life. Instead of diesel, it burns biomethane, gas harvested from livestock waste, crop residue, or organic byproducts. The result? A machine that doesn't just reduce emissions, it recycles existence itself. Its 6.7-liter NF engine, co-engineered with FPT Industrial, delivers around 270 horsepower. But what's revolutionary isn't its power. It's what that power represents. The remains of the last harvest power every turn of its wheels transformed into clean energy. Where the old generation of tractors left a carbon footprint, this one leaves a circle. Fuel, soil, growth, renewal. The T7 isn't just carbon neutral, it's potentially carbon negative. It emits 80% less CO2 than diesel, while returning organic waste into the ecosystem that fuels it. And when paired with a hydrogen cell variant under testing, it represents a vision of farming that's self-sufficient. Fields that power themselves, farms that become their own energy grid. Inside, the machine still feels familiar. Ergonomic controls, a panoramic cab, and the deep hum of mechanical life. But beneath that familiarity lies transformation. A new rhythm of farming, where energy no longer comes from refineries but from the cycle of the land itself. Farmers call it the machine that breathes with the farm. And that phrase might be more accurate than they think, because the T7 doesn't just consume fuel, it exhales clean air back into the same atmosphere it draws from. One day we may look back at this design and realize it wasn't radical, it was inevitable. When progress runs full circle, innovation stops feeling like rebellion and starts feeling like balance. So what do you think? Is this the future of farming, or the first sign that nature has started teaching us again? Ranked third, Case IH Autonomous Concept Vehicle. When Case IH unveiled its Autonomous Concept Vehicle, ACV, in 2016, it didn't just turn heads, it removed them. No cab, no steering wheel, no place to sit. For the first time in farming history, the machine didn't need the farmer to ride along. It looked like something out of science fiction. A sculpted red body, curved like a predator's spine, rolling across the field guided only by GPS and radar. But beneath that futuristic shape lies a clear message. Autonomy isn't coming, it's already here. Powered by a 420 horsepower FPT diesel engine, the ACV could plow, plant, and spray on its own, following satellite paths with centimeter precision. LiDAR sensors map their surroundings in real time, avoiding obstacles with machine reflexes faster than human eyes could track. From a control center, or even a tablet, a farmer could command multiple units at once, assigning each a section of the field. There were no gears to shift, no levers to pull, just data, just distance. And suddenly the farmer was no longer inside the tractor. He was above it, watching from a screen. Some saw liberation, fewer hours in the field, more time managing efficiency. Others saw loss, the disappearance of something deeply human, the bond between hand, soil, and machine. Because for generations, the tractor wasn't just a tool, it was an extension of the farmer's body. When it moved, he felt it. When it struggled, he pushed harder. The Case IH ACV broke that connection, not out of arrogance, but necessity. It represented an industry acknowledging that scale had outgrown the individual. Years later, its technology quietly filtered into production lines, auto steering, field mapping, AI obstacle detection, all born from that one radical idea, a tractor that didn't need us anymore. Standing before the prototype today, it feels eerie, as if something vital has gone missing. A machine built for humans, now complete without them. The seat is gone, the silence is total, and in that absence you can almost hear the future breathing. So what do you think? Did the case IHACV free the farmer or quietly erase him? Ranked second, John Deere 8R Autonomous Series. In 2022, John Deere crossed a line that farming had only imagined. A world where the farmer no longer sat in the cab, yet the tractor still obeyed his hand. It wasn't a prototype. It wasn't science fiction. It was the 8R Autonomous Series, a fully self-driving production tractor, ready for sale in the real world. At first glance, it looked like any other 8R. Same shape, same color, same towering presence on the horizon. But step closer, and you'd see what was missing: the farmer. Instead of a steering wheel in motion, there were cameras, 6 pairs of stereo vision sensors scanning 360 degrees around the machine, feeding an AI that could read depth, detect obstacles, and plan routes on its own. From miles away, the operator could control it with a smartphone, setting field boundaries, assigning tasks, and watching in real time as the tractor worked day and night without rest. The Deere Operations Center, a cloud-based command hub, turned one farmer into a fleet manager and one farm into a network of intelligent machines. But what made the 8R Autonomous remarkable wasn't just what it could do, it was what it represented. For generations, farming meant presence. To feel the soil in your boots, to hear the hum of the engine beneath your seat. The 8R replaced that with screens, sensors, and silence. The human touch became a signal, transmitted through data rather than calloused hands. Still, for all its distance, something intimate remains. Every decision the farmer makes, every curve, every depth, every timing of the plow, still begins with human judgment. The machine may execute it flawlessly, but it's still following a mind that remembers what soil smells like after rain. This is what modern farming looks like: precision over proximity, efficiency over effort. And maybe that's not loss, perhaps it's evolution. Because the 8R doesn't erase the farmer's role, it expands it. It turns one man's instinct into a system that feeds hundreds. But then again, as these machines move silently under the stars, guided by unseen hands, it's hard not to wonder, at what point does control become observation? At what point does the farmer stop driving and start watching history unfold? So what do you think? Does autonomy bring freedom to the farmer or distance from the land? In first place, John Deere Autonomy 2030 platform. It began with one tractor, then two, then an entire field of machines that no longer needed drivers, maps, or even commands. By 2030, John Deere's autonomy platform is no longer a single model. It's an ecosystem, a self-sustaining intelligence that connects tractors, harvesters, drones, and sensors into one living network. The farm no longer sleeps. Every square meter of soil, every seed, every motion is tracked, analyzed, and optimized in real time. What once took instinct now runs on data. Billions of signals moving across a silent web that never stops learning. The 2030 platform isn't about a machine anymore. It's about awareness. Each tractor becomes a node in a digital nervous system. They share weather, yield, and terrain data, adapting their strategy as if guided by a single mind. A rainstorm triggers automatic reallocation of tasks. A dry patch summons irrigation units without waiting for instruction. The land itself becomes an organism, one that thinks through its machines. Deere calls it total autonomy, but in truth, it's something more profound: the merging of human vision and mechanical instinct. Farmers no longer need to manage every turn. They set objectives, and the system interprets them. The machines decide the rest. No steering wheel, no rush, no noise. From the outside, it's almost haunting. Dozens of green giants moving in perfect formation, carving silent paths across an endless field. No operators, no mistakes, no hesitation. Only rhythm, only precision. For generations, power in agriculture meant control, the will to command the earth. Now it means harmony, the ability to let the earth and the machines speak to each other directly. And in that silence, something extraordinary happens. You realize farming has never been about the tractor itself. It has always been about understanding the cycle, the soil, the sky, and the breath between them. Now the machines understand it too. There's no roar, no smoke, no shouting over engines, just movement, perfect, deliberate, endless. The world no longer watches the farmer at work. It watches the farm itself, working, thinking, remembering. And for the first time in history, it doesn't need us to begin. The story began with noise, with the thunder of diesel and the rhythm of men steering steel across soil. But it ends here, in quiet motion. Machines that no longer wait for commands, fields that no longer sleep. We've watched a century of evolution, from sparks to sensors, from sweat to software. And somewhere along the way, the tractor stopped being a tool and became a teacher. Every generation built something louder, more substantial, faster. Until someone finally asked, what if power didn't have to roar? Now electricity hums where engines once growled. Code replaces gears, and farmers no longer drive through the field. They guide it from the horizon. But the truth is, progress was never about replacing people. It was about continuing their work in another form. Because even when the engines fall silent, the land still remembers who started the story. The earth doesn't need us to move anymore, but maybe it still needs us to care. Thank you for watching Tractor World. If you believe the future of farming is more than machines, that it's about balance, subscribe and join us again next time.